welcome today, everyone. It's so great to have you all with us. We are blown away by how many people have registered today. It's incredible. So certainly lunchtime seems to work. But a very important webinar today, and something we've been trying to get together for some time. So on the webinar today with us, and this webinar is being hosted by SATSA, Africa's Eden, Roundtable Human Rights in Tourism and Fair Trade Tourism. So quite a heavy hitting lineup today. But with us on the webinar today, we have Grace Steed, who is no stranger to most of you. Grace is the General Manager at Fair Trade Tourism. She began her career as a town planner, but soon shifted her focus towards sustainability, embracing a long-term approach to development, and now leads Fair Trade Tourism. And Grace has been furiously at work over the last few months. I'm sure she's popped up in a province near you, and continues to do very important work, and is obviously partnered with SATSA since the beginning of the year. And we will obviously share more information around fair trade tourism in our resources post-webinar for those who don't quite know what fair trade tourism do. So welcome, Grace. And then leading us today through her presentation is Katharina Steckel, who's joining us all the way from Berlin in Germany. She is a dedicated expert in business and human rights with an academic background in tourism management and professional experience in development cooperation and communication across various countries. As program manager of the Roundtable on Human Rights in Tourism for over 5 years, Katharina has initiated, implemented, and led numerous pilot projects, guidelines, training initiatives, tools, and events. Katharina as well was very much involved, and correct me if I'm wrong, with the impact study that we'll be unpacking today for South Africa, and she will deep dive into that. But yeah, she was very much involved with it, so she is the best placed person to take us through that impact report. I will be sharing the link to the report with you in the chat section for those who want to have it up and read through that. We will be sharing it out post-webinar. Just a reminder, we are recording the session. So if you would like to watch it back afterwards, or you have colleagues who aren't able to join today, we will be sharing that out post-webinar, as we always do, with some really great resources, FAQs, and all the links that you need. So without any further ado, please remember to keep yourself on mute, post your questions in the chat section, and I will now hand over to Katharina.
Thank you so much, Kim, and thank you for that lovely introduction. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's presentation. We are absolutely delighted to have you with us today. And as Kim already said, I was part of the assessment myself. I'm sitting here in Berlin, Germany. I already get a little jealous when I saw where everybody is joining from today, because here it's already very autumny and gray and rainy. So lucky yous who are still sitting in the sun. I start with the Roundtable Human Rights in Tourism. I'll give you an overview of the assessment itself. And then we go through the more practical aspects to keep it a little bit more vivid, let's say. So yeah, let's start with the Roundtable itself. The Roundtable is a multi-stakeholder initiative that was founded in 2012 as a result of the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. And that's when a few tour operators within Germany sat together and said, okay, what does this actually mean for tourism? And that's when our association was founded. And we are now the largest sector dialogue on human rights in tourism. We currently have 41 members from 8 countries. And within that, we have 5 interest groups. So that is tour operators, associations, multipliers. So that is institutions, universities, foundations, also ITB Berlin, for example, civil society organizations, and certifiers. Our membership is actually open to all tourism players who commit themselves to the Roundtable principles and sign the commitment and declaration for the stakeholder. If you're interested, then give us a ring, send us an email. We're always happy to discuss with new members as well. And we really see us as an open dialogue platform for the exchange of know-how, for mutual learning within the industry. We provide information, guidance, materials, examples of good practice. And with all of that, we kind of built a trustworthy network of tourism stakeholders. And we really aim to support the industry in a very demand-oriented way. So everything that we develop comes from the industry and it directly goes back to the industry. And all of the offers that we have so far on our website are also free. So yeah, feel free to also check out the website, explore the tools and guidelines that we're already having there. I've mentioned some of that before. So we really are a global platform uniting tourism stakeholders to address several human rights challenges. So that is never tied to a particular country. It's really about tackling the challenges with regard to human rights due diligence that the industry is facing, and then finding different ways of how to tackle these challenges. We spark innovation, and we always want to amplify voices across the tourism value chain. So not only talking to managers, talking to tourism companies, but also always with a very clear focus of the people on the ground and within the destinations who are directly affected by tourism. We co-develop projects with very diverse partners, also cross-sectoral. We share tools, training, expertise, knowledge, and during all of that, we stay independent and collaborative and are deeply connected, as I said before, across sectors. And yeah, the message is always to empower responsible tourism and to strengthen ethical leadership. Let's take a look at a human rights impact assessment. So before I explain the setup and also the findings from South Africa, I like to briefly show you where we actually came from and what such an assessment is based on. We conducted this tourism impact assessment to understand the real human rights risks and impacts that occur in tourism destinations. And that not only on paper, but in practice. So the goal is to move beyond desk research and statistics and really listen to the voices of local stakeholders. That includes businesses, communities, employees, and civil society. And the approach is based on risk analysis. So an impact assessment is a very in-depth process that identifies where people's rights may be affected, that could be positively or negatively by tourism activities, and how we can work together to prevent or to mitigate those impacts. And for that, you have the so-called human rights impact assessment. And the Roundtable has done that before. The methodology itself follows 5 international recognized phases that were developed by the Danish Institute for Human Rights. And the approach is globally acknowledged and provides a very structured and credible way to assess risk, to manage stakeholders, and to develop practical recommendations. And what the Roundtable did in 2019 was kind of creating a blueprint of how such an impact assessment can work in a tourism context. That was kind of a pioneer project, and within that phase of the impact assessment in Myanmar and Thailand that we did in 2019, we came up with this whole blueprint, and all the documents, all the templates are available on our website. The tool can be shared with you afterwards if you want to learn more, and we're happy to share that afterwards. So that's for how an impact assessment works in general. And now let's dive into South Africa itself. So this project really followed a multi-stakeholder approach. We had a very, very broad support from the industry. And it was not only Roundtable members, but also other tour operators who found that approach important. South Africa is a very relevant destination for German and European travelers. And at this stage also, we want to give a very big thank you to all the supporters and also the very dedicated partners in South Africa that were very open for discussion and also for consultations. Here on that slide, you see kind of the structure. So we had the core project partners from Brot für die Welt, which is one of the main civil society organizations within Germany, Der Tour Studiosus and Kneiser Touristik as core partners from tourism business. And as a local facilitation partner, we had Fairtrade Tourism. All the other supporters that you see down below were either ones helping us with financial resources or also with in-kind services. The context, oh, sorry, I was a bit too fast here. The context how we came up with that project was actually with the German Supply Chain Act. You might have heard of that before. It's called the LKSG. And that kind of was putting growing legal and ethical requirements to the tourism industry. So the basis was an abstract risk analysis that we got from one of the tour operators as part of their due diligence under German law. And the project supported and all the partners supported with supply chain data, with research, with discussion, with the perspective, with risk analysis, with work. So you see, there was, even before the assessment itself started, there was a whole pool of information that we also, as a roundtable, who was in the lead of that project, needed to structure to go through. And what is very important for us is that we never wanted to have a top-down approach. I go into that in a little bit more detail here on this side. So the focus of the assessment was a typical tour operator value chain for a group tour in South Africa. And it's not a sector-wide impact assessment. You know, South Africa is a very, somebody slipped the slide. Okay, I go back. South Africa is so broad, it's so diverse. So for us, the challenge as a small organization with also limited financial resources, we knew that we could not do an overall assessment of whole South Africa. So that's why we decided to stick with only a few destinations. And it constitutes as a snapshot of the current situation at the time of the assessment, which was in January 2025, and has, of course, also a limited scope. I'm sorry, I don't know why the presentation keeps on flipping. I'll try to go fast through it, so then maybe we can go to the next slide. But what I want to quickly focus on is, beside the information gathered through existing documentation and the desk review, the findings are mainly based on the evidence and perspectives that we had on site. That is really the most important part of such an impact assessment, and this is also why you don't do it only on the desktop. And it's based on qualitative research, and anonymity was, of course, granted to the stakeholders consulted. Before the slide changes again, what was really, really important for us during this assessment was that to give special attention to the sensitivity of the topic. So no top-down approach. We always wanted to have a collaboration and not coming there as German or European people telling South Africans how to do their business. For us, it was really important that it's not patronizing. The goal was always from the start to listen and not to dictate solutions. We really, really recognize South Africa's strong commitment on human rights. And we also, which is so deeply embedded in the Constitution. And the scope was very specific, as I said, and the reports was intended to really give practical recommendations. So we'll give the slide what it so desperately wants to, which is switching. So here on that slide, you can see where we went during that assessment. The destinations that we focused on were Cape Town, Joburg, and the Greater Kruger area. The product type that we focused on was a mid-range tourism product. And the methodology I've already explained. So the human rights impact assessment is aligned with international standards, such as the German Supply Chain Act, with a specific focus on tourism products that are related to risks on a specific route. We talked to a lot of stakeholders along the way. Here on that slide, you see how many of them. We visited several projects. In the end, we talked to more than 80 stakeholders. So in the time that we had on site, which was 11 days of assessment with 2 different teams, mostly 2 of us, we consulted a very, very broad range of stakeholders. And this is kind of the result of all of these efforts on site. Here in that slide, you just get a little image of how that looked on site. So we were coming to the project or to the partners, had workshops with them, had very intense talks with them. And there was the whole range from tourism stakeholders. So we talked to management, we talked to civil society, but we also talked to staff at hotels, to drivers and so on, to really have kind of a holistic picture. A tourism impact tool or a tourism impact assessment is not just a compliance tool. So it's really important for me, especially for the tourism companies that we hopefully have today in the audience, that it's a strategic investment in the sustainability and the resilience of a company's operations, and also with your partnerships in South Africa. The slide again wants to change. I'm really sorry about that. I have no idea what is going on. I sincerely apologize that I have to flip back and again and again. I cannot stop the presentation. So it really helps to identify and to mitigate risks at an early stage. It helps companies to detect risks. It helps companies to also to go into human rights risks that are directly connected to their own business, such as working hours, unemployment, discrimination, and so on and so on. It really strengthens compliance and future proof of your own business. So there is definitely a business case. South Africa already has strong local labor and equality laws. At the same time, international tour operators are now subject also to more legislation. So that also brings us into the situation where people might be more willing to dive deeper into these topics, because there is also a legal pressure to do so. And yeah, it really strengthens local and international partnerships. It helps you to gain operational insights, it enhances brand reputation, and of course, it also boosts internal engagement and also your relationships with your local stakeholders. Going back to the next slide, as I just mentioned before, South Africa has a very strong legislation regarding human rights. Still, there are some systematic challenges, such as wage gaps, gender pay disparity, and employment inequality. So they remain critical issues. Based on the consultations and previous desk research, we defined as a result of the on-site assessment the following key issue areas that you can see here on this slide. And they show risks and leverage points that were actually identified. So there was job creation or upskilling with a particular focus on youth, workers' rights in general, children's rights with a particular focus on child labor and exploitation or sexual exploitation. and fair pricing and contract design in the supply chain. We go into all of these results can be found in a report that we launched as a roundtable. And I would now like to take you a little bit through that report with one example so that you can see what it looks like. So the report is available for free on our website. We will also share the link in the chat right now, and also after the webinar today, you will receive the link towards the report with all of the documentation. So this is this example from our tourism assessment South Africa report illustrates how each chapter in the report is actually structured. So you see there's always the key issue areas. These are the ones that I just mentioned before. And then you always have the overall risk factors within a South African context. Then you have the connected legal requirements and regulations. You have practical challenges that are connected to that particular risk. And you then have possible measures and action steps. And at the end, always good practice examples and further resources. We now looking at job creation and upskilling, especially of the youth, as one of the examples in the report and one of the key areas that we defined as a result of the assessment. And if you look at youth employment, I'm very sure all of you being in the industry know that it's a very crucial issue in South Africa. Unemployment remains extremely high, with 32% overall and more than 45% among youth between the age of 15 and 34. And tourism actually offers a major potential here because it creates decentralized employment, which is often outside of city centers and is in rural or also economically marginalized areas. There is a strong national awareness, and that is reflected in initiatives like the National Youth Policy, the Youth Employment Service Programs, and so on and so on. So it's definitely an issue that is already on the table, but still it's something that we found as one of the key challenges to address in respect of this assessment. So that is the first part of the report. If we now look at how to tackle this, each topic in the report moves then from describing challenges to offering very action-oriented solutions. In this case, tourism businesses report strong motivation to train local youth, but they also see frustration, for example, when newly trained and very qualified staff then leaves for other employees. So that's why the report suggests a very collaborative approach, for example, joint training programs or mentoring projects between, for example, DMCs, lodges, and associations. And a particular and very important recommendation, which will come back later in this presentation, is the creation of a online repository, which compiles free, locally relevant e-learning resources on tourism. So that is a source that especially youth can use in order to get themselves qualified. And it's meant to make training more accessible, more consistent, and also more sustainable over time. On this slide, I compiled a few of the action steps from the report. So this is, of course, not everything that is in the report. So it's just a few picked out exemplary measures or possible action steps. Because for us, it was really important, as I mentioned before, to have realistic and also relevant interventions that tour operators can take to manage risks in their supply chain. We always wanted to consider the local context, culture, of course, legal frameworks, and we focused on what would truly have impact without creating any unmanageable compliance burdens for local partners. And of course, there are certain areas where you would need a broader and more systematic change. We also stretch that realistic expectations and alignment with national directors and stakeholders. The measurements, as you can see here, sit on very different levels. So some of them are more individual by tour operators. Some of them require a more holistic approach. But yeah, this is just to give you an idea of how possible action steps can look like for tourism businesses as a result of this assessment. And we did the same thing as we are a multi-stakeholder initiative ourselves. So we wanted to make sure that these action steps not only count for tourism businesses, but also for everybody else involved in the tourism industry, because this is our own very strong belief that you need collaboration between various stakeholders in order to have a true impact. So this is something that you can read through, go into more detail. On the business side, the focus is, of course, on the one hand side to getting basic rights, so ensure safe working conditions, for example, and integrating legal compliances. It can also be to brief your guests, for example, so long working hours, if you look at drivers and guides, often also result from guest expectations, for example, to have dinner with the guest or to with the guide, or to spend the whole evening, and that might directly interfere with the guide's wish to spend the evening with the family or get the necessary amount of sleep. So here, talking to the guests and explaining why the guide, for example, cannot stay for dinner could already be a suitable action step or measure. I've mentioned before, and we are very well aware of the fact that South Africa has strong labor and equity laws. I don't have to name all of them, you know them. And again, we are not allowed to stay on that slide, but we can go through it anyhow. So the key message from this slide is success definitely depends on the local context. And this is why so many of you are here, and this is why I am here only as a presenter. The important wrap up for my presentation now is that we also wanted to make sure that we not just come to South Africa and say, okay, we ticked a few boxes, we've done the assessment, and now that's a project that we can put aside. A direct outcome of the tourism impact assessment already was that several of the core project partners, I've mentioned it before on the slide, have already initiated individual follow-up actions. For example, around child protection and around child rights in tourism-related activities. So that is something that has already happened as a result of the assessment. And that is something why we also needed the German or European tour operators on site. So they also had the chance to directly talk to their suppliers on the ground, and therefore get a better and more mutual understanding of where challenges lie and where European partners, as for example, contractors, also have a better leverage to tackle these risks. It shows that, that the assessment results are already being translated into practice. And the next step we want to highlight, and which will be presented in more detail by Grace, is the creation of the tourism training repository. So that is something that we go into more detail right now. And here on that slide, I'll just compiled two more follow-up measures that we are planning. I've briefly touched on itinerary planning with regard to drivers and guides. So this goes into that direction. so the first workshop that we are planning for January, taking into consideration how important Christmas time is in South Africa, and also, of course, that is the peak season with tourism. So we decided to go for late January. We want to do a workshop on workers' welfare and itinerary planning. So we want to bring together DMCs and local partners to exchange perspectives and define practical standards to ensure fair working hours and better welfare for guides, for drivers, and also for rangers. And the second measure is a webinar that we want to focus on fair supply chains and just transition. And there we want to bring together European tour operators and South African tourism stakeholders for an open dialogue on responsible contracting. I've mentioned that before. So if one partner puts a lot of pressure, for example, regarding the price, that might result in a local stakeholder not being able to provide either the standards or the quality that he or she wants to, just because the price pressure is so high. So this is something where, responsible contracting can be a solution, because it brings in fair collaboration and also the mutual benefits across the tourism supply chain. So it's a key step, so to say, to shifting the deal. So, and together these measures continue the cooperative spirit of the assessment, which is and was always turning findings into action and to strengthen partnerships and promoting human rights in tourism practice. That's more or less the end of my presentation. I've mentioned this at the beginning. We have a lot of information, guidelines, webinar recordings, tools, and so on our website. So if you're interested, then just take a look, explore. There's a lot out there already, and this is also something what we always try to foster and to explain. So you don't have to start at zero. There's already a lot out there, and we are really happy to help and to bring all of you together. So with that, I'm very happy to take your questions. I'm sincerely sorry about the presentation. It kind of had his own way of going through it today. I don't know why, but thank you so much for staying tuned. And as I said, happy to take any question.
Thanks, Katerina. If you do want to ask a question or have a comment, please feel free to pop that in. I think tech is working against us today because I see we have a squiggle across the screen, and I've been trying furiously to remove it, but it's not working with me. So, but your message got through, Katerina. It was a beautiful presentation. So
thank you. Maybe it stops when I stop sharing. Then
maybe we'll see. It's
we'll
all
see.
good. It was phenomenal. So if you do have a question or a comment for Katerina, please feel free to pop that in. Otherwise, we can take that at the end too. That's not a problem. I think in the efforts of timekeeping, then Grace, we can maybe move on to you, and then we can kind of have a Q&A at the end then.
Where's my mute? Okay, continue to share. Okay, can you hear me and can you see my screen?
You are all good.
Thanks so much, Kim, and thanks to Katerina for actually providing the background on the study that was done. I think that was really important work, and they've got a lot of really good resources. But as she said, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. And as part of this process, we were asked to also just go and see what are the resources that are available and how can we actually amplify that. So my presentation that I've got today is just building on what Katerina has said. So as part of the assessment, they recognize that there are resources available specifically for the tourism industry, but how does one actually go about to make sure that people know about it? So to address this gap, Fair Trade Tourism has compiled a digital library with free online open access educational resources. And drum roll, please. Ta-da! We are proud to launch this digital hub today. It is like literally hot off the press. So this is it. It's on our Fair Trade Tourism website. You'll see there at the top is a new tab called Resources. And this is a whole range of educational resources that we've managed to pull together. You'll see that it's done in partnership with a whole bunch of amazing partners, amazing resources. Some of the partners here have provided their information, and some of the partners here will be helping with amplifying it, so that we can get the message out and get more people to actually know about these resources so that we can work together. And the idea was also here that everything that we're putting up here, the aim was to have it all as free resources. Although some of these platforms do have paid resources as well, the idea is to make it free and to make it as accessible as possible. So just to quickly show you here, just as a bit of an introduction there at the top, we just explained why we did it, what we did it. And then it's also building on the partnership that we have with the Human Rights Roundtable for Tourism. And that's also important because they actually funded for us to be able to pull this whole thing together. So thanks very much to Katrina and her team as well. So there's a quick introduction there, and then you can see we've got a whole range of different topics that you can actually have a look at. So they're different categories. Just to show you that when you actually go through it, if you click here at the top, you'll see that there's a list of all the resources that have been uploaded. And I'm not even sure how many we've got, but there's lots. And then we've got the categories, as you can see here. We've got a list of all the different categories. These are the main categories that we're working with. A lot of the content also falls across different categories. So we've also tagged them in different spaces, but they'll basically be sitting in one of these different categories. You'll also see here at the bottom, there's a category that we've got as the digital learning platforms. So a lot of these courses and resources were pulled from different online platforms. So you can either dive into a specific topic, or you can actually go to the digital platforms and go and explore them directly as well to see what the different digital platforms have got available as well. We have furthermore provided tags so that if you are looking for something specific, then you can actually just type in whatever it is that you're looking for. As you can see, there are a whole range of different tags. And then you can see what are the resources available related to that. And if you hover over the search bar, then you'll see that you can also combine tags or look at specifically the category or the articles, or however you're wanting to do that. So it's you can search for it, and it will search for any of the documents that are available on our online platform. And if anybody's got some documents that need to be added here, course material or resources or something, let us know so that we can also just continue to update this over time. Okay. So just to show you, to zoom in on one specific course that we've got here. This is actually a webinar done by Atingi on decent work conditions. So the way that the setup works is when you go in and you look at the details, you'll see that there's the heading of the actual course. You can see who actually developed that course. You can see a brief description about what that course is about, how long it typically takes. Sometimes it's the length of the pages of a document, But otherwise, if it's a course, it could be self-paced, it could be different modules. The best description available will be there on just sort of an allocation of time for that. The type, we've got webinars, courses, PDF guidelines, various documents like that. So you can very quickly see what type of document it is. The source is just down there again. The category that this one falls into. So this is specifically under promoting fair work and staff well-being, and then the different tags. So this relates to human resources management, skills development, fair work and staff well-being, tourism, work, and the environment. So you can see that each of these have got various tags in as well. Just a few other examples as well. As you can see, here's some more similar layout, and it keeps going, similar layout again. So as you go in, you can actually go through and you can go and look at a really an amazing selection of resources. And here I also just want to say thank you very much to Kaylin, our social media support at Fair Trade Tourism, who's really put in a lot of work to make this happen. And also Melissa, who supported us with this as well. So thank you so much. That's mainly it from my side. I don't know if there are any questions, but what I can just continue with is just to show you just a bit of a live stream as well while we continue. Kim, any questions?
Nothing as yet, so I think go ahead.
Can you see my screen?
We still see your presentation, so.
See my presentation, then I do need to stop and share again because I have now opened up this one. Okay, so now you can see the live website.
Yes.
Okay, so if you click on resources, you'll see, oh dear, I'm still logged in, so I can still edit things, so just ignore these little pencils. But besides that, these are our partners. These are where you can click down and you can see all the different documents. As I say, Kaylin worked really hard on finding all of these. And this is just how as I showed you what it looks like. If I just click on one of these, let's go here. You'll see this one is the environmental, and then you'll see a range of different topics. Webinars, this is a PDF guide. This one's a course which runs over 4 weeks. Any comments, any questions?
Just a lot of incredible resources. Thank you to you and your team. And just from my side, Grace, I mean, like, wow. I know as somebody that works in tourism, I've always been a bit fearful when it comes to sustainability, responsible tourism, inclusive tourism, just because sometimes it can seem so daunting. So I think to have a resource like this, where you can really just come to one place, type in what you're looking for, and find credible, reliable resources to watch, upskill yourself. Just information empowerment is just incredible. So well done to you and to Kaylin, and also to Melissa for her input. So I think everybody echoes those sentiments in the chat.
Here's a snag, Kaylin. We missed this one. As I said, it's just gone live. But it's there and it's ready to be used. So dive in, it's fairtradetourism.org, not .za, just .org, fairtradetourism.org. And if you want to go straight through to the resources, you'll see it's at the top, or you can just say /resources. And then just, yeah, thanks again to all our partners, and specifically also Roundtable Human Rights and Tourism, who helped to fund this initiative. And then SATSA and Africa's Eden for helping to amplify the message now that it's live. Okay.
Thanks, Grace. I think we just have a comment that's come through. I'll just go to that. From Stan, hi, or just a proposition of a possible extension of human rights consideration for travelers with limitations, disabilities, especially those with intellectual disabilities. I just want to, sorry, just jumped up. Oh, tech is really not working with us. Especially those with intellectual disabilities not already included. Thanks, Stan. So I think it's just an observation by Stan. So thank you so much, Stan. I will share that with the team afterwards when we debrief. Just from my side, this is a wonderful work. The Mariko Getaway Tourism Association is a newly formed and very young NPC that is trying to promote sustainability in the Mariko Biosphere Reserve. We are working with UNISA on a program for training of tourism stakeholders in our area. So this will be very useful. I will also share this with the team afterwards when we debrief, and maybe they can also get in touch with you and see how they can support better. So those are the two comments that have come through, some observations. I don't know if anybody else has got anything to share. Just as a reminder, what we do post-webinar is we wrap this up quite nicely into a recording for you. We also share post-webinar assets. So all the links that Katerina and Grace have been chatting about, we will share post-webinar with you in a mailer with the recording so that you can reflect back and go and explore. And please go and look at the digital hub and see what there is there. And please share with your teams. I think that's quite important for those who couldn't join us today. Make it a morning meeting and discuss this and unpack it and share the resources so that we can amplify the message. What we'll also do is share contact details for everyone on the call today. So if you wanted to get in touch with Roundtable directly or with Fair Trade Tourism directly, you're welcome to do so. I will share those contacts with you. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else. Just lots of thanks and lots of people blown away by all the information.
I think we have one raised hand here, Kim.
Oh,
I see that correctly from Daya.
thank you. Daya. Daya, you are welcome to unmute yourself if you wanted to ask your question.
Thank you very much, Kim. And once more, it's great to interact with you. I think it's because of SATSA that Life Saving South Africa, which is a voluntary NPO, has had an opportunity to interact with tourism authorities. As I indicated, Life Saving South Africa is a voluntary lifeguard movement. We perform thousands and thousands of hours of duty taking care of local citizens as well as tourists when they get onto our beaches and inland waterways. And I think very often we find that there's not really a seamless interaction with tourism operators to work with the lifeguards to ensure that their clients are absolutely safe. And as you know, South Africa has, for example, there's lots of beautiful beaches, but some of the stretches can be quite treacherous, especially with rip currents and things like that. And unfortunately, the drowning rates in South Africa is high. So I think my question is, you know, as an NPO, we often don't have the resources to become a member of SATSA or other networks. Would, for example, the work that we do as an organization that has been around for 115 years, would we be able to get our work and our advisories, included within the tourism industry and hospitality industry to ensure that visitors and locals alike are actually safe? They should know exactly where to go and swim. They should know when are the lifeguard duties, not swim after hours, stay between the red and yellow flags, because what our lifeguards have shown, both the professional and the voluntary, is that in areas where people swim in between the red and yellow flags and within their duty hours, we have had very little to no drowning. But obviously, people wander off to wherever they think it's safe. We've unfortunately have tragedies, and we all know that you just got to get one drowning, and it creates such a bad reputation for the industry. So I can see a potential of our advisories going onto the resources, which is a fantastic repository. But from a human rights point of view, the safety of the visitors, ensuring that authorities can provide adequate lifeguards, adequate signage, and of course the lifeguards themselves, which, as you know, work under horrific conditions. You could have 20,000 people on one beach in Durban, one of the 5 or 6 beaches, but you may not have adequate lifeguards. You have swimming pools in our country where the carrying capacity may be 600, but there could be 2,000 bathers, and there's just one lifeguard. So we would welcome working with all and everybody in the industry to ensure there's a seamless messaging on safety at the beaches and inland waterways. And I thank you for the opportunity, Kim. Thank you.
Thanks, Dias. I will certainly, I think, post webinar, connect you with everyone. And Grace, if you are open to that, we can see how we can work together to amplify, your message, Dias. So I'll absolutely do that. I've made a note.
Thank you.
Just want to check. I don't see any other questions, just more observations, which I'll feed back to our debrief session. I think if there's nothing else, I'm going to close off today's webinar, unless you have something to say, Grace.
I just wanted to say thanks to the SATSA team as well for helping that we can get this message out, and to Africa's Eden, because this webinar is a joint initiative between Fairtrade SATSA and Africa's Eden. So I'm really happy about that, and just an open invitation if anybody does have any resources that they think would be suitable. So free online resources focusing on the tourism industry, please let us know. You can send it through to us. But thank you so much, Kim. I think that's it.
Amazing. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a great rest of your week.